question for you, and this is going to be me riffing on a Larkin Rose video. When was the last time you saw an officer of the law act righteous or act courageous or act brave or do the right thing? When was the last time? Because I haven't. Anytime I've encountered cops who have had the option to do the right thing and to help people, all they've done is take advantage of people and victimize innocent ones. And what's really sad is it's usually the actual victim in the situation that is being victimized, because it's easier for them. It's easier to turn a victim into a criminal than it is to apprehend an actual criminal. For instance, this is one really just sadistic and sickly example, but I don't know if it was recently or not. There was a video of this dad answering the door to cops late at night. I think it's about midnight at the time. And his daughter had just become the victim of an online predator who was coercing her to take photos of herself, which she shouldn't have put out publicly. The girl was like 11, and obviously she's the victim of a crime. She's the victim of a great crime, which is gonna stick with her for the rest of her life. Okay? That pain and that mistrust and that shame is not gonna go away. It's gonna become part of what makes her personality. What did these cops do? The cop was a female, by the way. Now, I have opinions on women becoming cops, and I don't think anybody who is a woman would appreciate my opinions. But this female cop decided to try and turn that victimized girl into the criminal, saying to her father that they should probably arrest her for production of cheese pizza, if you catch my drift. I don't know that I would have been able to maintain my cool as well as that father did, being told that about my daughter. That's a direct threat. You know, that's a direct threat on the well-being of my child, who is the victim of a sexual predator. I don't believe that person, that so-called officer, has any right to be around the public or to be part of society anymore. I don't. I think that that's a predator, and not only a predator, but a predator against children, more dangerous, I'd argue, than the one who was getting the girl to take pictures, or at least as dangerous. Those are both extraordinarily damaging to a person, but the cop actually poses a threat of physical harm. Guys, this is the standing army that we are warned against. This is it. If there's ever been a time to try and fix things, it's now, because before too long, we're not going to have that opportunity. And I don't plan on watching my children grow up in a situation that's worse than I grew up in. I don't want that to happen. I would lay down my life to make sure that that doesn't happen. I would gladly go to prison to make sure that that doesn't happen. But you know what? I don't think there's enough people who have the courage or the fortitude to make that same decision. They bought you off with comfort, with creature comforts, and now they bought your complacency and your blind eye. And I don't know what combination of words to say to get you to see that, because to people like me who have broken through that veil of authority, it's clear. It's absolutely clear that these people who call themselves public servants are terrorists. pure terrorist. I guess I saw through it at a young age because I don't want to say wise, but I was with it enough to see that we weren't actually spreading any sort of democracy to Iraq. With the war on terror, we weren't actually fighting terror. What we were doing was injuring people in a sovereign nation and murdering their families. Okay? That's not any sort of authority that I will ever look up to. An authority, a so-called authority who dupes his countrymen into supporting a war that is nothing but treachery, that is nothing but massacre. For what? Were there weapons of mass destruction? No. And what happened to the guys that lied to us about the presence of weapons of mass destruction? Nothing. He gets to live out his days painting shitty portraits of shittier presidents and cajoling with those presidents, which at the time who at the time pretended to be enemies. They pretended to be opponents, and now they shake hands, they laugh together, they paint each other, and you all fucking eat it up like chumps, like clapping seals. Stop. Stop. Take control of your own life. Stop believing that the presence of a different colored sticker on your fucking car every year makes you compliant, makes you a good person, makes you, one of the people. That is not what makes you a good person. That's what makes you a coward. I haven't read it yet, but Larkin Rose wrote a book called The Most Dangerous, Superstition. And I believe that to be the superstition, from what I've heard him speak, the superstition of statism, in that you have been made to believe that you need a state to dictate your morals back to you. And the strange thing is, everybody that depends on that state to dictate their morals back to them simultaneously understands that those politicians in charge of that state dictating their morals back to them are immoral men and women. That is fruit of the poisonous tree. You can't get a moral system out of immorality. You cannot. And yet still, every 4 years, like a good little slave, you go to the voter's box and you pick which tyrant you think will be more adequate to rule you. How insane is that? How insane. When are you gonna stop? Sorry, I haven't made camera contact at all because it's pouring rain. I don't know if anybody saw my video the other day about that lightning. Man, that was weird. Good thing I had just put down some spores outside. We'll see how that helps them grow. But back to the actual subject I wanted to speak of, which was law enforcement officers. I can't do it anymore, guys. I can't keep pretending like my fear of arrest is more valiant than my duty to disobey unjust laws. I can't do it. I don't know if anybody saw my other video, my video sitting in the office with my probation officer. At the beginning of that video, I was completely logical, calm, and just asking her why, asking questions. And she knows she's in the wrong. And the problem with these people is that when they are shown to be in the wrong, they bite you. They bite you because they're weak. They are cowards. And they are egotistical. And when you challenge their power, they have to assert it. And the same goes with officers. Luckily, on my traffic stop, which I uploaded, I had a guy there. I don't know what he does every other day, but that day he acted as a peace officer. And I respect the heck out of that. I'm not going to name him because I don't want him to get in trouble, because that's the kind of man that gets in trouble in groups, in gangs of tyrants. People who act morally true have no place against within the immoral system of policing. And that's pathetic. These people should be held to a higher standard of morals. But they're not. They are held to a lower standard. If they do the same things that we would go to prison for life for committing, they are covered by something they have called qualified immunity, and I have yet to see one of them be actually qualified for the position that they hold. Not one. Maybe that one guy on my stop, because he had the ability to put aside his badge and his ego for 10 seconds and act as the human being he is. He acted, as a human being. And we don't have that anymore. To them, you are not the same, okay? That's something you need to see. They don't refer to you by your name. They refer to you as a suspect or a subject. Dude, their entire game is dehumanizing you enough to morally justify the terror they inflict upon you. I did not see that coming, but I did, because I study history, and we are no different than them. No, I won't own that. They are no different than Germany in the 30s and 40s. Zero difference. I'd argue that they're worse, because pretty much, we're chipping away at the respect that they unrighteously earned. They can't come for all of us, guys. We've been sold this idea that, they're more powerful than us. Everybody else is going along with it, so we should too, because it's like voting for a third-party candidate. There's just too many people voting for left and right that if I vote to elect a third-party candidate, which I don't agree with, just putting that out there, but their argument is that if they do vote for that person, their vote doesn't count. Dude, you're a slave. You're a slave if that's what you think. Oh my God. And I'm not a slave. And you know what? I've never been a slave. But it's torture living amongst you, knowing the potential that you have to be free men and women, and the good that you could do in the world, just ignoring the system that has been laid out in front of you. You could do so much good. Knowing that, and knowing that you willingly turn against that, your own higher self, it's torture living amongst you. It's torture seeing people I once respected falling into this childish left versus right paradigm. People that are 70, 80 years old now, still voting for who they want to control them. That's sad. You're essentially admitting that if you don't have somebody telling you what to do, you're probably going to go out and grape and destroy people's lives. That's what you're saying. Because you know what? Everything we see in other people, it actually comes from ourselves. It comes from something we dislike about ourselves. And when you say, well, I don't trust the other people to rule themselves efficiently and correctly, what you're saying is that there's parts of you which you know that if you didn't have a ruler, you would hurt people. And I have no respect for that, because I have gone through periods of my life when I did hurt people. But I hated myself for it. And you know what? In hating myself for that, it made me change myself because I didn't want to keep hurting people. But what you're doing is saying that unless you have somebody telling you how not to hurt people, you will default to creating victims. And if you argue that you won't, what makes you think that you're better than everybody else? What makes you think that everybody around you will victimize others? All it is brainwashing. You guys need to break through that brainwashing. There's not a single politician that vies for your affection who deserves it. They never have, and they never will. Every 4 years, your memory resets, and you're like, oh, this time will be better. This time, my wishes will be his command. And you keep falling for it. Like thoughtless pigeons. At least never mind. At least bird shit has a use. All you people do, still voting, is consume and shit and consume and shit, and then vote for somebody who is shit. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And I got people twice my age still doing that because they think it's the right thing to do. Dude, at this point, with this amount of just easily accessed information and history, you've either got to be dumb or just ignorant, or you just do want to control people. I'll tell you one thing. If I was ever elected into a position of power, the first thing I would do would be to dismantle the Federal Reserve. The second thing I would do would be to dismantle the Supreme Court. And the third thing I would do would be to dismantle my own position and let we the people work it out amongst ourselves, because clearly nobody that is put in a position of authority deserves it. Nobody that vies for to be your authority deserves it. Stop voting for them. Stop it. You're fucking yourself.